Hello everybody! Now is a good time to tell everyone that I now have a Cameo page. So, if you want like a shout out or anything from me, go download the app and check that out right now. Do it. The rest of the video is not going to start until you do it. Go. Now. Hurry up. So, Gothikana. This one got pretty big a few years ago and a lot of people have requested it. I finally got to it recently, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it could have been a lot worse.
Ah! What the fuck?
Like, I don't think it's good, to be clear. I still think it's a bad book, but it's not horrendous. Like, I've plumbed the depths of bad romance that got big on TikTok, and compared to a lot of those, this isn't that bad, really. I mean, it's not good, but there's parts that I unironically liked. And I know that might sound strange coming from me, because pretty much everybody else on BookTube who's talked about Gothikana has said it's terrible, said it's the worst thing ever. But there's a few reasons why, even though, again, it is bad, it could have been far, far worse.
This is the introduction song. It's not very good, but it's not too long.
Gothikana is a self-serious, dark romance, which also is somehow tied up with dark academia, but that's more of an aesthetic, that got popular on TikTok. There is a bland main character girl with very little personality, except that she likes books. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, a sexual tyrannosaur who loves sleeping around decides that he is now obsessed with the void where her personality is supposed to fit, and now he loves her and only her, and bland main character girl, despite not having much sexual experience before this, suddenly experiences a sexual awakening, and now she's like super horny all the time. Like, if you've read any of these books before, you know exactly what Gothikana is going to be like. Like, sure, there's a story outside the romance, but it is really, really half-baked, and at least in Gothikana, it doesn't take up that much screen time. Like, I'll get more to that in a bit, but you don't need names or anything for any of these people. Like, you've seen these characters a dozen times. There's main character girl, there's love interest man, and nobody else matters at all. Now, in Gothikana, main character girl is actually 22 years old at the beginning, so she is an adult, but she's also really inexperienced, and she's never even thought about penises. She's never even considered what she would do if she saw a penis. She is literally only attracted to men that she reads in books. That's not a joke, that is actually confirmed at one point.
Why? Why?
Then she goes to a super secret school because, again, dark academia is apparently a thing people like, and this school is a literal castle in the mountains, and it's also supposedly haunted. And then she meets one of her teachers who happens to be so good at his job that he can be a professor while also still being really young and hot, and then they have a bunch of kinky sex, and that's pretty much the same as falling in love, I think. There are also some mysterious disappearances going on around, which might have to do with all of the alleged haunting and alleged ghosts and everything that are going around. And then there's a very short climax at the end where the day is saved. Main character girl and love interest man decide that they're going to get married and have children because there's no other way to end a romance, and that's it. That is the end. I guess technically there's some spoilers in there, but be honest, if you're watching this, you probably don't care. However, from this point forward, there will be more specific spoilers, so I guess if that bothers you, see you around. Goodbye.
I know you got.
Look.
Yo!
I'ma do
What
it.
the fuck? Yo!
It's not real, 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 it's not real.
So in the name of fairness, I'm going to go over things I liked and things I disliked about this book, and I'll start with things I liked. Now, some of these I liked ironically, like they were so bad or stupid that it made me laugh, but other parts I liked unironically. I actually think there's parts of Gothikana that are pretty good. Thing I liked that this book isn't too long. You know, for so many of these awful dark romances, they're just air sandwiches. They go on for like 600-700 pages, and it just drags, and there's nothing happening for long, long stretches of time, and there's very little plot, there's nothing moving forward. It's just really, really obnoxious and tiring to read, whereas Gothikana was relatively quick, you know? There's not 80 pages of exposition explaining how there's a specific type of cum magic that means the main character girl has to have sex a lot or anything, because I know some of you might think I'm exaggerating or joking about that sort of thing, but no. A lot of authors, for some reason, feel the need to include in their fantasy stories reasons why the main character has to be horny all the time and she has to be involved with the love interest man. It's dumb, and I'm kind of glad Gothikana didn't do that. There's also not some sort of huge world-devouring war that exists entirely off-screen until our brave heroine comes along and uses her special powers count it, one time and then saves the day doing that, which again is a pretty common thing. Like Gothikana, there's the romance, and then there's some stuff on the periphery. You know, I liked that. The author understood the assignment. The author knows that, yeah, the audience is here for the romance and for the smut, so there's technically a story there, but she just doesn't focus on it that much, and she doesn't make it last forever. I just unironically, I appreciated that she did that. You know, if this book was twice as long and not properly edited, like, again, a lot of other stuff in this genre, it would have been really, really difficult to get through. Something I liked. The sex stuff in here, while it's not really my cup of tea, it's kinky, but it never really crosses a line, and I appreciate that. Like, a couple of months ago, I read a book similar to this called Lights Out. Go watch my video on that if you haven't. And I actually kind of liked Lights Out, because, you know, that one was self-aware, had a sense of humor about how goofy it was, you know, and it wasn't, again, I wasn't into the sex stuff there, but it made it really clear throughout the whole book that everything that went on was consensual. Like, sure, the two leads are weird, but they match each other's freak. You know, they're two weirdos who match each other's freak, and I'm okay with that, you know? It wasn't my cup of tea exactly, but I wasn't feeling weird or gross while reading. There's so much romance stuff, not even like just modern dark romance on TikTok or anything, but going back decades, there's so much romance stuff where there are romantic or sexual scenes where the love interest just will straight up sexually assault the main character, and we're supposed to be okay with that because he's hot or whatever. Like, I don't like reading that. I'm sorry, I find it off-putting. You may quote me on that. I think rape is bad. There's actually a scene in Gothikana where someone's explaining like the backstory of the castle and why it might be haunted, and they explain that some men kidnapped a girl and sexually assaulted her in the woods. And for a minute, while listening to that, I was genuinely unsure if those guys were supposed to be villains or not. Because in this type of book, oftentimes, if the lead does it, if the love interest does it, then it's perfectly fine, and it's just, like, hot and kinky or whatever. But, like, if other people do it, that means they're the villains. And in this case, these guys were supposed to be villains. But the point is, like, yeah, I was genuinely unsure for a minute, and that's... like, that should go some way to explaining why, even though I don't like Gothikana, I don't hate it as much as a lot of other books in this genre. If nothing else, it does say, hey, the guys who do rape are the villains. Now, I will say that love interest man in this book, some of what he does, yeah, it does blur the lines of consent, and I personally don't like that. However, it never really crosses a line. Like, some of what he does... yes, it would be unacceptable if a real person did it in real life, and you would have to put a stop to that, but this is fiction, so I am willing to, and I know a lot of other people are willing to overlook some things that you probably wouldn't overlook in real life, and I don't know exactly where the line would be with all of this, and maybe I'm not the person to be asking because this isn't really a genre of books that's aimed at me, but the point is, in Gothikana, love interest man, he walks right up to the line, but he never quite crosses it, and again, just for me personally, I appreciated that. Something I liked that main character girl has some genuine mental problems. Like, throughout the book, it's kind of ambiguous if she's hallucinating or if there's supernatural occurrences going on. And at the end, there's a twist, so it turns out it was kind of neither. Like, yeah, she did still have some mental issues, and some of what was going on was not entirely real, but also, there's a villain using mind control plants to manipulate people.
What the hell did you just say?
Now, that was dumb, but it caught me off guard, at least. You know, there's not any sort of witch like they were wondering about throughout the whole book. Like, there's just herbs that can do mind control. But I did like reading about main character girl and being unsure if I could trust her point of view. You know, she doesn't have a lot of personality, but she does at least have that. And I wasn't sure what to think of what she was doing and what she was experiencing throughout the book, but that was deliberate, so I kind of liked that. Something I liked. This book is very poorly written. Like, the actual prose and individual lines and dialogue and everything, it's not good. However, there were a lot of lines in there that were bad in a way that they made me laugh. And those lines, I don't know, they kept me going. Like, every time they came up, I was a little bit happier. For example, there's a scene where main character girl nearly cuts her wrists on some glass, and that would be dangerous, so love interest man is telling her, oh, hey, I hope you're okay, I hope you didn't cut yourself, you could have died. And she says, quote, then I would have died in your arms while coming, and what a beautiful death it would have been. Okay, that's just a dumb line, but it made me laugh, so I did enjoy it. Or another part where love interest man says, I am your madness. Now, that's weird to begin with. Like, that's just a strange, weirdly edgy line to begin with. But it becomes even funnier when you learn that he says it while they are having sex. And he says each word in between thrusts. I don't know if I can even describe that on YouTube without getting demonetized. I guess we'll see. Or, as I said earlier, it is confirmed that main character girl is only attracted to men from books until she meets love interest man. She realized it was the first time she was feeling lust induced by an actual man and not a fictional character. Yeah, I feel like I got some insight into the author when I read that line. I was like, okay, yeah, I think this explains a couple of things. Or a part where the love interest man says, magic eyes, magic pussy. I swear, I could do a million takes. I would not be able to say that one without laughing. Like, context won't help. Trust me, I think it's funnier out of context, so I'm not going to tell you what that one is. But I don't know, there's just a lot of lines in this book that are dumb, but they made me laugh, and that's something. You know, there's a lot of books like this that don't even have that. So that's about it as far as stuff I liked goes. You know, it's not a lot, it's not a long list. Again, I don't think Gothikana is a very good book, but you know, as a critic, I need to be fair, and I need to be honest when something comes up that I enjoyed. Like, it's not really valid criticism if you don't acknowledge the positives and the negatives, because pretty much every book ever written is going to have both. So now that that's done, let's move on to the stuff I disliked. Obviously, like I said, the writing isn't very good. Like, it gets funny sometimes, but for the most part, it's just weird and kind of stupid. We'll just leave it at that. The book is also supposed to be a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but it has absolutely nothing to do with Beauty and the Beast. Like, there's a castle, and main character girl goes there and falls in love with an older man. Like, that is the only tenuous grasp between that and Beauty and the Beast. When main character girl arrives at the castle with the super special school, and she meets love interest man, she immediately thinks he's hot. And there's not a whole lot of conflict between them before they... how do I even put this? I don't want to say before they start dating, but I guess that's like the best term for what's going on. There's not any real tension. They don't hate each other or anything. They just kind of meet, and then they fall in love and do weird sex stuff. And that is not at all like Beauty and the Beast. Like, the whole point of Beauty and the Beast is that Belle dislikes the Beast until he changes himself into a decent person. Now, I am mostly going by the Disney versions of this story because, let's be honest, the author and the intended audience for this book are probably not familiar with any of the other versions of Beauty and the Beast, because there's a lot of those. Now, in some of the other versions of Beauty and the Beast, it's meant to be more of a metaphor for arranged marriages. So, like, Belle, sure, she gets sent to the castle to the Beast by her dad to, like, pay off a debt, essentially, which is bad, because it's essentially saying that whatever society she's in is viewing her as property. But again, in some versions of the story, she goes there, and the Beast is actually a pretty chill dude from the beginning. He's just, you know, really scary and ugly looking. But once Belle kind of gets over her initial reaction, she realizes, you know what, this guy's not so bad. I guess I can marry him and it's fine. And again, like, that's probably how it went for a lot of people who were put in arranged marriages. And I guess I shouldn't talk about that in the past tense because that's still a thing today. But the point is, that's probably how it goes for a lot of people. Whereas the Disney versions, it's more about helping the Beast realize that he can be a better person and that he can change. Either way, in Gothikana, main character girl loves love interest man almost instantly, so how can this be Beauty and the Beast? Like, there's no beast involved. And to be honest, that annoyed me more than anything else in the book, because there's a lot of books, especially in terrible romance genre that is big on TikTok. Like, there's a lot of books that are just retellings of fairy tales and myths, but they don't actually retell the fairy tale or the myth. Like, if you're going to do it, then do it. Like, with too many of these, Gothikana is just the latest one for me. With too many of these, it's obvious that the person writing it either missed the point of the story or just straight up doesn't care. Which, you know, I like, if you're gonna do that, then don't advertise your book as a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, or, oh, it's Hades and Persephone retelling, like, because it's not at that point, and it just irks me to see false advertising like that. Something I disliked. Love interest man never straight up rapes anybody, but he is still an asshole. Like, he's controlling, he's mean. There's really no reason for him and main character girl to be in love. Like, they just are in love because the plot demands it. And, I mean, like I said earlier, they do kinky sex stuff and then suddenly that's romantic, I guess.
That's it?
I wish I had more to say about the romance specifically, but, like, there's just not much there. Both of the leads are hot, and that's all the audience needs to think that there's something deep going on. Like, at points in the book, they talk about how love interest man had a vasectomy because he doesn't want kids, and at this point, he and main character girl have been sort of ish dating for like a week, but main character girl feels betrayed by this revelation that he doesn't want to have children and that he made a decision not to have children before he even met her. How dare he not consult her? Like, it's just very strange. But then at the end, after the climax, he gets the procedure reversed, so now he can have kids. And that's like, I guess the intention is for the audience to go, oh, that's so romantic. They're gonna have kids one day. But by this point, they've been sort of ish dating for like a month. Like, just settle down is all I'm saying, you know? Make it through the holidays first. Meet each other's families. Move in together, make sure you can actually get along in close proximity, and then you can start talking kids, maybe. Like, just ease up. Pull your foot off the gas, please. That's actually something that annoys me in not just romance stories, but stories that have romance subplots. Like, you can just show them fall in love. Like, we don't need to have confirmation that they'll be together forever and that they're gonna continue following the script and have, like, children and stuff. Like, you can just show them fall in love, and then they're in love at the end of the story. Like, you don't need to go into a lot of detail about what happens after that. Like, when you do that, it's like you're trying to rush through an epilogue, and that's just really unsatisfying. Like, that sort of thing can work if it's a really long-running story, so that a lot of time has passed, and the audience and the characters can both feel like a lot has changed. You know, then we feel like we're leaving something behind when the story ends, as opposed to just, hey, I kind of know these people, now they're in love, I guess, it hasn't been that long, oh, okay, they're gonna have kids. Like, it's just odd. If you want to understand what I'm talking about, just watch the finales of a lot of sitcoms, because a lot of times the finale of a sitcom is just a feel-good send-off to beloved characters, and it works because most of the time we've spent multiple seasons with these people. We've gotten to know them, we've gotten to like them, and a lot of times we've probably had storylines where we see them like get new jobs, get married, have kids, you know, that sort of thing. So it feels like not only have we changed a lot in the however long it's been since we started watching this, but also the characters have changed a lot. So when someone moves away out of the city or out of the old neighborhood or whatever in the final season, there's a sense of progression, but there's also a sense of loss. And one single short book is not enough time to evoke that feeling. Like, it's not a matter of it being written well or being written poorly, it's just that there is not enough time to do that. Even if you write it really well, one short book is not enough time to do that. So something I both kind of liked and kind of disliked is that there's not a fantasy world here. Like, okay, the world building is still not very good, but at least they didn't waste a lot of time on it, if that makes sense. Like, because every time romantasy comes along and tries to have it be in a fantasy world, it's clear that the author didn't care enough to do it well, and it feels like they're looking down on fantasy as a genre, which, as a fan of fantasy, that annoys me. Like, they just sort of throw in some vague monarchies, magic powers that exist solely to make main character girls special, and then they flirt with the idea of furry sex, but they don't actually have the spine to do it. And so I'm glad this one didn't bother pretending, but at the same time, there's really nothing else to replace it, so I don't think I can say I liked that there's no fantasy setting, but I don't know, it was something a little bit different at least, so that was kind of nice. Another thing I disliked, which I think goes without saying, but I feel the need to specify, I dislike all the aggressive sexual stuff. Yeah, that's all. It's weird to read. So with all that out of the way, I think it's important to note that I was never going to love Gothikana, because it's porn, but it's been shoved into the mainstream because the fans of it are embarrassed to admit that it's porn, so we have to treat it like it's a real book, and I have to actually criticize it like it's a real book. And I think the most that I can reasonably enjoy one of these is, again, Lights Out, because that one's not great, but it is fun, and it's self-aware, and I can see how other people would read it and think it's an enjoyable, kinky romp. But, that said, it's a genre I don't really like, but it's competently written. Gothikana is not competently written. I don't know the best words to describe this, so I'm just going to say that the whole book just kind of oozes with fan fiction-ness. Like, the writer has never had proper feedback or editing before, and I really don't like when people describe a book as being like fan fiction when they're trying to make it sound bad, or anything else, saying, it's written like fan fiction, because you can just say it's bad most of the time. It doesn't actually feel like fanfiction, it just isn't good. So when I say that Gothikana feels like fanfiction, I just mean it feels like the writer has never had proper feedback or editing before. And I think this sort of thing happens to a lot of amateur writers when they move on to bigger things, because a lot of them start off in places like Wattpad and fanfiction.net and AO3 and Fiction Press and places like that, and they start off just writing for a very small community of like-minded weirdos. And most of the time, both the writers and the audience are very young, and they don't have much idea how to do anything, and they don't have a lot of taste. Now that's fine. I was also like that when I was a teenager. But a lot of them never really branch out, and they never really grow beyond that. And when you're a writer who starts off in that environment, it can be really difficult to get proper feedback so you can learn and branch out and grow and get better. And so the ones that give writing a try for real and actually get published, oftentimes they're just not very good. You know, they have bad habits that get reinforced, and once they, break out of their small community, they get much harsher criticism and much different criticism than they're used to, but they tend to dismiss that sort of criticism. It becomes a sort of, fuck off, preps, stop flaming, that sort of thing. If you actually understood that reference, I like you, we can be friends, but also I think we all need to log off for a few just days, years, months, I don't know, man. We need to log off for a bit. The point is, Gothikana is something that feels like it was written by an amateur, because there's passion, sure, but there's also no clear direction for that passion to go in, and also there's no real refinement for that passion. Because 20 years ago, if something like Gothikana had come out and been like traditionally published, it would have been far more polished before it actually went out there. There'd be less obnoxious lines, the dialogue would be better, the characters would be forced to have at least a little bit of personality, and the romance would probably be better. So that's part of why I don't hate Gothikana, is because I see glimpses of what it could have been. I see glimpses of a much better story buried in there somewhere, and I think it's kind of a pity that nobody these days wants to help books like this reach their full potential. So that's it for Gothikana. I guess you can stop requesting that now. Be sure to like the video, comment, subscribe. Hey, if you like this sweater, check out my merch store. You can buy this as well as some other stuff. And check me out on Cameo if you haven't already. And, consider becoming like a YouTube channel member or a Patreon patron person. Yeah, thanks. Goodbye. Hello, thanks to everyone who watched all the way to the end of the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Do you see all these names here? These are my patrons. These are the guys that send me money over on Patreon. If you want to get your name here, you can give me $5 or more a month. I really appreciate it. You can also become a YouTube channel member. That gives you the same benefits, like having early access to videos and stuff. You just don't get your name on here. Huge thanks to my $10 and up patrons, 3-Day Cat, Arthur D. Gonzalez Martin, Brother Santodes, Carolina Clay, Lexi Delorme, Lord Tiebreaker, Michael and Katie Hake, Mr. A5013, Proscriptions of Zhuojiang, Psych XS, Slumbering Jellyfish, Observing Outer Space, Tesla Shark, Toa Michael, Vevictus, and Wesley. I wouldn't be able to do this without all of these people here, as well as all the rest of you. If you can't support me that way, then again, liking the video, commenting on it, sharing it around, subscribing to my channel if you haven't, or just having a lovely day. I guess that helps too. See you around. Goodbye.